Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is Andres and we're exploring the events on the life of Jesus Christ. The idea is that if we can prove that the events happened, they were real, then the miracles were real as well. I don't know why in recent times people have thought that Jesus Christ's life was a myth or a made-up tale or a moral story. No, we can determine exactly what things happen. Having determined in prior episode that the Gospel of John related events in chronological order, and the Synoptic Gospels were in some cases out of order, we can use the Gospel of John as our guideline for the sequence of events that happen. Now, last time we looked at the verses for Jesus Christ healing the blind man at the pool of Siloam, and the immediate verse following is that Jesus Christ went to the feast of dedication, which was in winter. The feast of dedication was to dedicate. That's when the temple was rededicated after the Jewish people obtained independence from the Seleucid Empire, the Greeks, and they were able to relight the candles at the Temple of Jerusalem, and that happened on the 25th of Kislev, I think. 25th of Kislev. And the Jewish people celebrate as their day of independence. Just like we celebrate the 4th of July, patriotic Jews celebrate Hanukkah for 8 full days. Isn't that amazing? 8 days. So if you're a red-blooded Jew of Judea, you went and celebrated. Now, this was not a religious celebration because it wasn't on the Bible, in the Old Testament. So those were not holidays or holy convocation days, but they were days to celebrate. I think you still had to work on those days, but you celebrated at home. And now we know exactly when it happened. It happened right after the Feast of Tabernacles of 32 AD. There's only one Hanukkah that could possibly have happened, and that's the Hanukkah of 32 AD. So if we look at our calendar, here's when Jesus Christ heals the blind man in the evening, and a few months later you have Hanukkah. Hanukkah happened on the first day of Hanukkah was December 18th of 32 AD, and it ran until December 25th of 32 AD. We know the exact date. What we don't know is the day in which Jesus Christ went to the temple. And apparently he went there only one day. He showed up, and the Jews rebuked him and tried to kill him, so he left. So I assume it was the very first day. So he's chomping at the bits. He wants to go to the temple. The first day of Hanukkah, he shows up at the temple, and they try to kill him, so he leaves. But that's not for certain. That's my supposition. But what's for certain are the dates of the entire week. Now, where did Jesus Christ come from, and where did he leave after they tried to kill him? It's told at the end of the tale here. Where the priests take offense to what Jesus Christ was saying, and therefore they thought again to take him, but he escaped out of their hand and went away again beyond the Jordan into a place where John had first baptized, and there he abode. Now, the word again means that he came from that place, went to Jerusalem, and when they tried to kill him, he returned to that place. A place beyond the Jordan when John first baptized. So, we know the exact dates of the feast. We know that he came from, he went to beyond the Jordan to a place where John had first baptized. And if we read the Gospel of John 1:28, it says these things were done in Bethabara beyond the Jordan, where John was first baptizing. You say, aha, now we know that it was done in Bethabara. But the problem is, the Greek text itself says Bethany beyond the Jordan. It doesn't say Bethabara beyond the Jordan. So what's going on here? We can look at the interlinear version of the Bible that has the actual Greek text. And it says right here very clearly, Bethany. It doesn't say Bethabara, it says Bethany. And also we can look at various other translations of the Bible. For example, the New International Version 28. And he says, this all happened at Bethany on the other side of the Jordan. So how in the world did the word Bethabara get changed in the Gospel of John that got translated into the King James Bible? We'll have to explore that for a second. But first, let's talk about what does it mean, Bethany beyond the Jordan? It turns out that there were two Bethanies. There was a Bethany in Judea, and there was a Bethany in Perea. And those are two different countries. Now, if we look at a map of the areas that were there, this was Judea right here, over which the Council of Elders and the High Priest had jurisdiction and command. So that's the area in which they could say, hey, execute Jesus Christ and or catch him. And that was a country. Perea was this area across the Jordan, the River Jordan. And that was a different country. It was outside the jurisdiction of Judea. So even though they wanted to catch him, they couldn't cross over into another country and grab him. So as you see here, there's a Bethany next to Jerusalem in the country of Judea, and there's a Bethany on the country of Perea. Now Samaria was also part of the same Roman protectorate as Judea, but the priests of Judea didn't have control over Samaria. They were basically a country inside another country. The Decapolis was an area of Greek people, and the main city of Decapolis was Scythopolis, which is around here somewhere. And you can see how he split Perea in Galilee. Galilee is this area over here, which was to the west of the River Jordan. Now all this is called the River Jordan, and this is called the River Jordan, and this is the splitting line right smack in the middle, and that's the split line right there. So it turns out there's a Capernaum in Galilee, and there's also a Capernaum in this area. The Bible calls the Galilee of the Gentiles. The Romans called it Gaulenauntis. And there was also Bethsaida in the Galilee of the Gentiles, and there's also another Bethsaida on this side. So he makes everything confusing. Each country tended to repeat the names of the towns. So you have towns of the same name, various places. Believe it or not, Galilee also had a Bethlehem. There's a Bethlehem in here somewhere. So in any event, that's what it means to be Bethany beyond the Jordan. It meant the Bethany in Perea. Now, where was the Bethany of Judea? Well, John tells us that Bethany was nigh unto Jerusalem, about 15 furlongs off. Now, what the British translators of the Bible in the 1600s translated as furlongs was a Greek stadia, and which is about 607 feet. So the Bethany of Judea was about 9,100 feet from Jerusalem, or 7.1 miles from Jerusalem. And his friends, Mary Magdalene and Martha and Lazarus, had a house there. But that's the reason why Jesus Christ slept on the Mount of Olives on the Sabbath when he was visiting Jerusalem, was that he couldn't travel that far. It was beyond the Sabbath day journey distance, which is about 2/3 of a mile, and this was 1.7 miles from Jerusalem. So that's the reason he had to sleep and camp out in the Mount of Olives. Okay, now put some numbers on paper in specifics about where the two towns were. The place that called Bethany, that was right next to Jerusalem, which John says is about 15 furlongs from Jerusalem, has been identified as El Azariah. Now, Azariah is from Lazarus. And we go to Wikipedia for this link for that town. We'll see that the place of Lazarus. We'll see that it was right next to Jerusalem. The important part is that it gives us the coordinates. If we click on the coordinates, and we'll look at the satellite picture, it's this area right here is kind of overcome with all the urbanization of the area. And it wasn't that far from the Temple of Jerusalem. You see the Temple of Jerusalem over here. So you had to travel east along this road, basically, to get to the town. Because it was longer than a Sabbath day journey distance. Jesus used to sleep at the Mount of Olives and didn't go to his friend's house. They own the house here. This is where the tomb of Lazarus was. The other town, beyond Bethany, beyond the Jordan, has been identified as Al-Makdas, which is the baptism or the immersion. So that's Bethany beyond the Jordan. This is kind of what it looks like in the tourist area, by that area, or the holy site. It also includes the coordinates. We click on the coordinates, look at the satellite map. You'll see that the place of the baptism's probably around here, or maybe around here. And this is where John used to do their baptisms. This is the country of Perea. And this, to the left of it, is the country of Judea. The moment you cross the river, you enter a different country and you're safe. You're almost like a robber in early America, where if you cross the state line, they can pursue you over there. And the distance to the Temple of Jerusalem is much longer. Temple of Jerusalem is H in this picture. So from H to J. And if you calculate the distance using, for example, the mapper, Google Maps, from here all the way to here, it's about 18.67 miles on a straight line. So I put together this little table here, listing the coordinates, latitude and longitude, and listing the miles from Jerusalem and expected hours of walking from Jerusalem. Now, to come from Bethany beyond the Jordan, that's where he would come. Jesus would come towards Jerusalem. Was about six and a half hours. So if he raced at the crack of dawn around 5:30 in the morning, he would arrive there at noon or maybe at 1. So that's likely what he did. On the first day of Hanukkah, he woke up really early. Jesus walked to the temple. He arrived there around 1 afternoon, had his confrontation with the priests, and then had to flee and go back to cross the border into the other country, into Perea, and return to their friend's house in Bethany beyond the Jordan. That's where the house of Simon the Pharisee, also known as Simon the leper, was, and where Mary Magdalene, Martha, and Lazarus and Judas lived. So all that seems pretty straightforward. The mystery is how the name Bethabara got introduced into the gospel in such a way that even today the King James Bible uses it. I mean, they modified the Bible. Somebody did, which is, although may have been done with good intentions, it was like they say, the road to hell is lined with good intentions. It turns out that the person that tried to modify the Gospel of John was Origen, one of the early church fathers. He made a trip down to the Holy Land. He searched for Bethany. He couldn't find it, and he heard that the crossing where, or the place where John the Baptist was baptized in was called Bethabara. And worse of everything, it was on the west side of the Jordan, which doesn't make any sense because it says clearly beyond the Jordan, so it must be on the east side. If you click on this link, there's a study done about how that came about. The oldest solution to the problem of the identification of Bethany beyond the Jordan was set forth by Origen in the year 185 to 254. So it's almost 230 years after the events. On his commentary in John, he says he admits that reading Bethany is found in all the almost all the manuscripts, but he was convinced that reading should be Bethabara instead. So anyway, here he goes over what his reasoning was and blah blah blah. And others have said that no, Bethabara was on the east side of the Jordan. It doesn't matter. The point is that an arrogant priest, thinking that he knows better, decided that he was going to change the word of the name of the city. I mean, how dare he? I mean, and this is not the only instance. There are many instances that you can notice on the Bible where things were changed, and not for the better. And I really dislike it when I see that happening. So anyway, we can ignore wherever it says Bethabara. That was a forgery, basically, by Origen. May he roast in hell. And and we come to the conclusion of this this program. If we see here, Jesus showed up at the temple on the first day of Hanukkah. That's my assumption, because it wasn't a Saturday, and likely was the very first day. And then he went back to Bethany beyond the Jordan for the remaining 8 days. He stayed with his friends and family. And that means that all these verses from 1022 to 1042 have been dated. The next verse is a story about Lazarus, which happened about 4 months later. So there's a break in the story, 4 months. And to show you what we've done, here the feast of dedication is dated Thursday 25th of Kislev, December 18th, 32 AD, to Thursday the 3rd of Tevet, December 25th, 32 AD. But to show you what we've done, if you go to this site on statistics, it'll tell you a number of verses for each one of the chapters for each one of the books on the Bible. You want to look at the number of verses, because when they translate something, the number of words changes, but the number of verses don't change. So for the book of John, we have a total of 879 verses. For each one of the books, we have the number of verses. You can go ahead and count them, but having it here is a lot more convenient. So out of 879 verses, we've completely dated chapter 7, that's 53 verses, chapter 8, that's 59 verses, chapter 9, that's 41 verses, and chapter 10, that's 42 verses. So that's a total of 192 verses. So we have dated already, in just these two instances, you know, in two stories, just the healing of the blind man by the pool of Siloam, and Jesus Christ celebrating like a patriotic Jew, celebrating the independence of Judea on the day of dedication. We've already done 22% of the entire Gospel of John. That's amazing. Not only that, we've identified the place where Lazarus was raised from the grave. That's Bethany, near Jerusalem. We've identified the place where Jesus was anointed by Mary Magdalene. That was in the house of Simon the Pharisee, and that was in Bethany beyond the Jordan, which was really close to the river. And next, in the next episode, we're going to look at where was Cana. Nobody knows where Cana is. Can you believe that? We know he was in Galilee somewhere. And there are about 4 or 5 different places that are called Cana. Which one was it? I'll show you how to figure it out. To this day, nobody knows except me and you eventually when I tell you. So, please look for my next video. And please like and subscribe. That'll really help me with the channel. And give me some encouragement on to continue to making all these educational videos. Thank you.